Welcome everyone to episode 1 of The Neologist, the Untold story that literally no one has asked us to tell. So, over the 12 plus years we've been doing this question hasn't come up even once. Not even a hint of a question of, hey guys, can you tell us more about yourselves? So you're probably wondering, well, why in the hell are you doing it then? And that's a great question. That is a fantastic question. Why am I doing a podcast series of The Neologist that literally no one has asked for? And there's a couple of reasons. First is, over the years, it's been about 12 to 13 years now that we've been doing this. Even longer if you factor in the backstory a little bit, which we'll get into. You factor all that time in. There have been a few questions of people coming up saying, hey, cool band. When are you guys touring? When are you playing live? And that made me realize, for all the stuff we have out there in terms of material, we don't really have much into who we are, who I am, and who Devin is, right? And really the story of the Neologist. So I figured, okay, it'd be kind of cool to dive into some of this. And then also, share a lot of the, unreleased material or secrets or Easter eggs maybe. And man, we got a ton of Easter eggs in our music that, again, no one probably cares about. But it's exciting to me. So I figured, it might be pretty cool. Someone enjoyed the music and they found out this little tidbit of a detail. Might be cool. But really the biggest reason I'm doing this is my own personal selfish desire to kind of preserve some of these things, some of the things we're going to share in terms of secrets and material. Because, after 12 years, even longer again with the backstory, there's been so much that's happened, and some of the Easter eggs and stuff, and I'm already forgetting shit left and right. That Devin will even tell me a little thing here when we're reminiscing. I'm like, man, I totally forgot about that. I completely forgot we did that, or you did that, or I forgot what that song was about. So I kind of wanted to preserve some of this for myself, but I thought it would be interesting for some people. Most people probably not. You probably don't care, and I totally get that. But nonetheless, let's dive in to the first episode of The Neologist, the Untold story. And for this episode, it's going to really just be the origins and how Neologist came to be. To tell that story, you really have to go back to 2005 timeframe. So at that time in 2005, I, James, was studying electrical engineering at Penn State University. So there's fun fact number one is I'm actually an electrical engineer with my day job, my actual job, the only thing that pays me. And while I was at Penn State, I actually met a guy at the dorm, a couple doors down, named Joe Krasinski. And he was actually studying mechanical engineering. And he came by one day. I was playing my guitar in my dorm room. And he kind of poked his head in. And, we kind of started talking. I was sitting there playing metal. At the time, I listened to Metallica and Megadeth, Pantera, all that stuff. And he enjoyed that too. So it kind of caught his ear. Okay, this guy's playing metal. He's not just playing, some pop song or something on his acoustic. So we hit it off and, ended up finding out that, he liked that music too, but he was actually into European death metal, melodic death metal, most importantly, In Flames. So he kind of showed me In Flames, and man, I was like, from that point on, I was like, okay, this is like the next level of stuff. And it just hit, I was on board almost instantly. So we used to run around, listen to In Flames. We started playing guitar. He played guitar as well. So we started playing, he was more rhythm, I was more lead. And, we were just dicking around for, a number of months or whatever, learning stuff. We played at like the campus Battle of the Band or talent show or something like that with a bunch of like frat people or whatever. So that was awesome. But so we did that. And, after a while, we're like, we should, do some songs. And I was like, well, man, I already got like all this material because I've been writing music since I was in high school. Most of it's shitty. But I said, I got some songs. You want to take a look? And after we've kind of been talking and you got me into this In Flame shit, I've been writing some more songs kind of in that kind of style. So we started playing some, and we had about 3 or 4 that we were playing. And we're like, what? Let's just see if anyone else out there is like kind of looking for people to play with. So we ended up looking out, and Joe actually found this ad from a guy, Paul Butler, that was about an hour and a half away from our campus, and he was looking for guitarists. So like, let's go out and meet the guy. You never know what's gonna happen. Who cares? Let's try it. So we actually drove out, and we met up with Paul. He also had actually already had a band called SeVeR, and some of the guitarists had just left the band, but he still had the vocalist that was there, Matt, something, I can't remember Matt's name, but so we met up with him, kind of talked, played a little bit, and we actually hit it off, man. So for that point on, like every weekend, Joe and I were driving like an hour and a half to meet up with him, and so this Matt guy like stopped coming to practice or didn't come at all. I don't even really remember the guy that much. I can't remember what he sounded like or anything, but he just like stopped showing up. I guess he didn't care or was done with the whole SeVeR thing. So it really became just Paul, Joe, and myself. So we were like, all right, we need a vocalist. Let's try to find a vocalist. And I forget who found him. I don't know if it was Paul or Joe, but someone found something from a guy named Matt Watson that was kind of the opposite direction, but a little bit closer to Penn State. So Joe and I just kind of went down and met up with the guy, and like, oh, this guy's pretty cool. We can see what he's about. And he really had like a kind of Phil Anselmo, Hatebreed type of, gruff yell scream. So a little different than the European melodic death metal, but thought it was, at the time, it felt like it could work, and guy sounded good or whatever. So we say, hey, you want to play with us? And boom, we brought him on board. So at that point, we had basically a full band except no bassist. And after playing a little bit, we said, where can we find a bassist? And Joe goes, well, I got this buddy back home in Jersey from growing up named Devin Walsh. And he plays bass. Maybe he'd be interested. So Devin at the time was going to school at the University of Delaware. And I was like, there's no fucking way this guy's going to drive out here for this. So I guess Joe showed him some of the kind of the demos that I'd written. Devin was impressed enough that he said, okay, fucking I'll try it. So he drove from Delaware, the University of Delaware area, all the way to Reynoldsville, PA, to see what this band was about. And he came out. I can't remember all the finer details, but clearly he accepted and thought it was a worthy enough trek for the whole thing. So at that point, the new era of SeVeR was born with the five of us. So we were doing band practice like every weekend, which Devin and I were just talking about this. It never really sank in. I mean, I was driving an hour and a half each way, which was like, man, this is insane. Devin was driving 6 hours just to get to Penn State, I think. And then he rode with us for the extra hour and a half. So he was going basically 7.5 hours one way every weekend, or almost every single weekend for a number of years. I think he did move a little bit closer. I think he was back to Jersey or whatever, but still, it was like somewhere between 6 and 8 hours, like one way to do this like college band that was clearly not going to go anywhere. I mean, at the time we felt pretty good about ourselves, but it's just, yeah, I mean, the music industry is just so fucking tough. Like, we didn't know though at the time. We were thinking, we sound good. I think we sound good. The material's good. We've been playing a bunch of shows. Like, yeah, it's worth it. Let's do it. And nonetheless, it was still a blast, man. That was like still such a great time. As crazy as all the shit that we did, and as bad as we may have probably really been, I had a blast. It was fun. But anyways, so Devin's insane, right? That's the takeaway from that story. Devin is absolutely insane that he drove that far every weekend. So again, SeVeR's born. We have the lineup. Where do we go from there? So we had actually recorded, I had an old like Fostex multi-track recorder box, this old ancient thing that I used back in high school. That was my means of recording back then. So we're like, look, we need to make some demos. So Matt came over to my little small apartment at the time, and we said, all right, let's get some of these tracks down. Look, I don't have a recording studio clearly, but I'll tell you what, get in my closet and sing some tracks on my Fostex. So, and Matt's a big dude, so he squeezes into my closet to do these tracks, and records these songs. And again, man, I don't know what my perception was back then or whatever, but after recording these, it was like, yeah, okay, let's kind of send this around and see what people think. Devin just sent these to me recently, and clearly things have changed in my perception because, wow. That's all I'm going to say, actually. It's just wow. So I'll see what you guys say when you hear these tracks. So here's a clip from one of those, Penn State studio closet recordings. Here's a clip of Lifeless. So how did we not get a record deal? It doesn't make sense to me. So yeah, that was where we were at that point. And I take full responsibility for that mix because I was the mixing engineer. So clearly, this is like, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing from recording, and we were all just such masters of our craft. So that's where we started. And if you'll notice, some of you who have actually followed the Neologist might recognize that song. That song eventually came to be Subterranean Creatures, off of our the Promise of Eternal Separation. Now, it does get better. Some of the hidden tracks and Easter eggs and all that stuff, it does get better, I promise. So anyway, so we had that. That was our gateway into getting some early gigs and trying to reach out there. And speaking of gigs, I mean, we played some real winner of places. We were kind of the local talent at this Fox's Pizza establishment where we would I can't even tell you how many times we played Fox's. I mean, a number of times from memory, but we would set up in their basement, this like tiled ceiling. There's giant poles in the middle of the floor just to keep the rest of the pizza shop standing. And we would go down there. I mean, the acoustics in that place was just atrocious. And we would play shows like that. I mean, that was just like an example of the types of venues we were playing. And still, at the time, I was just like, yeah, this works. We're on our way to stardom. And surprisingly, I mean, I don't know if it was those great demos that I just showed you, or if we did just kind of build a following over time, but something brought people on board where we did have like a small little group of like 5 to 10 people who were like SeVeR diehards. And I think it was because we were a band from this small Pennsylvania town, and I think people just kind of had an allegiance to us or something like that. And I'm telling you, it was like 5 people. So I don't want to embellish that fact too much, but speaking of Fox's Pizza, I still remember one time where like the pit leader, he's at this Fox's show, and they're running around thrashing their heads and some. I don't know what he does. I don't know if it's because like the floor is like tiled and slick and grease, because again, we're in a pizza shop. But he somehow slides and scissor kicks his nuts into one of those foundation poles, and it just drops him. Still don't know how he achieved it, but with such precision. But that was the highlight of the show. That was better than anything we played, for sure. But anyways, just going to show you, I mean, that venue was our big one. We played like local WrestleMania shows, and yeah. So that's what our life was about in the beginning. I really shouldn't even say the beginning. I think we played venues like that throughout, but that's where we were at that point. But we knew, I think eventually we had to have been like, look, we need to get a real recording going. So we again, we're all most of us were college kids. Joe, myself, and Devin were all in college. Matt was a bit older. He was just working a job. Paul was doing his thing, but we were like, look, we got to scrounge up some money and try to get a real recording going so we can actually try to promote ourselves. Because again, at the time, we were still thinking, like, look, we can maybe do this for a living. So anyways, we eventually scrounged up enough to record a 4-song EP in Ohio at Spider Studios. And at the time we were like, okay, so what do we record? Now remember, I had like so many songs that I had written, and I had shared a number of them with the guys. And a lot of those actually, again, we only recorded a 4-song EP or whatever, so I had a whole bunch left that some of them have actually been reworked into Neologist songs. So, and I'll share some of those over the course of this podcast series. But so we had to pick 4. So we ended up choosing the 4 songs being The Grudge, Amidst the Ashes, Broken Soul, and a track called oh God, what was the 4th track? In Your Hands. So we kind of like practiced the shit out of those songs, and we're like, we got to get this fantastic. We got to this is our shot to make something. So we ended up going out there for a weekend. And getting in the studio and recording it, and man, that was a blast. I'll flash up some of the pictures, or maybe I already have, but that was a blast, man. We were really kind of just experiencing this, and again, this whole time was like this, surreal experience in SeVeR, where I think I just had no real concept of what I was doing or what was possible, but it was still such a blast. But anyway, so here's a glimpse. Same lineup. This is, 4 of us and Matt Watson on vocals. But here is a clip from the song, The Grudge. So yeah, leaps and bounds over closet recording. So after we heard this, we were pretty pumped, man. It was such a great weekend. And some untold stories from all that crazy shit. But yeah, we had that recording, and it kind of reinvigorated us that we were able to, to get out and do some more shows. And if that's what we sound like awesome, great. So things went on a little bit longer after that. We promoted the hell out of that EP. Ended up getting some interest from a guy by the name of Rob Bolger, who was doing what was called Behind the Suit and Tie documentary. So basically like a look into the music industry. So that was like the first big engagement we had. Other than playing shows or whatever, this was something outside of that. It was like, okay, man, now we're starting to get people in the industry interested in this. It was still pretty naive on our parts, but we didn't know any better. So we had engaged with this guy, and there's all these big promises and all this stuff, and we were just lapping it up, man. We were just so blind to what could be. So fast forwarding, just this little isolated story here. Rob Bolger kept saying, "Yeah, it's coming out, blah blah blah." It still hasn't been released, and I've actually heard that I think Devin was telling me that he's still working on it. I mean, this was back in like 2007 or 2008 or something. 2007, I think, or even 6 maybe. So yeah, I don't know if he's just still milking unsigned bands or whatever that it's going. I don't want to like deface the guy. Maybe he is working on it. But anyways, for us at that time, it seemed really good. It seemed like a great opportunity, and it just never went anywhere. We also had some other guy, Tom, that made all these promises of, hey, send us $1,000, and we're going to just make this music the next big thing. And we were so dumb. That we paid the guy, and he just took the money and left. Like, that was it. I think he still had like contact with us or whatever. Like, oh yeah, guys, no, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be so good. You guys just paid me all your money. Like, big things are coming. And spoiler, big things never came. Just one of the many things that I think just people who are so eager to do something with music just eat that shit up, and people just take advantage. I mean, it's got to happen. From our experience, I mean, that's two that we can remember. I feel like there might have been other things, even with like setting up show venues and stuff, of just getting screwed, not getting paid. I feel like we had a couple of those stories. So, I mean, all in all, this is a big part of the Neologist discussion, because it just put such a sour taste in my mouth of, you know, what the music industry was. And granted, I mean, we were nobodies, absolutely nobodies. But anyways, so we had that EP, felt good, started making engagements with people in the industry that never panned out, continued playing the shows. And after a little bit of like, the hype was kind of worn off from the recording studio, it got to be a little more cumbersome with Matt, because Matt didn't have a car. So we had to like drive to Tyrone, PA, where he was, pick him up, then drive him to band practice, then drive him back. And it was just like adding more things. And if we were playing a show in the opposite direction, we still had to go pick him up. And you know, we'd actually, back at the time too, we'd recorded a lot of our live shows, and we were just starting to get a little down on ourselves when we saw ourselves playing live. And so anyways, I think all that just kind of started coming to a head, and we were kind of looking for a scapegoat to blame. And I think Matt was the one that kind of took that heat or whatever. So yeah, we one thing led to another, and eventually decided that a new singer was needed. So we did let Matt go, which I say that as if it's like a job or something, but I don't know how, you know, I can't remember exactly how it all came to be. But anyways, he was no longer in the band, which I felt terrible about, man. He's a good guy. And I mean, looking back on it, like, we were nobodies, dude. We sounded like shit. To kind of just, we should just capitalized on that on like the SeVeR lifestyle as best as we could. Just made the best of it, played shows, had fun, and called it what it was when we left. But that's hindsight. So at the time, we still thought we were going to be some big thing. So, you know, we were looking for singers, and we had tried everything. We even had, I remember on the Fostex, man, this thing was like the central to all of our efforts here. So I remember we had Paul that came down and sang on the Fostex in his basement, trying to see, can Paul sing? Maybe he can be the next singer. We had Paul's wife, Christy, say, let's see if she can sing. We had them sing on it. I had been singing since high school. I'm actually going to do a different episode on kind of my backstory and how, you know, I came to play guitar and vocals and there's all sorts of other fucking stories with that. But anyways, you know, I had sung. At this time, I didn't like practice singing. It was just one of those necessities. It was like, I have all this music. I like being self-sufficient, so fuck it, I'm going to sing. So I would put vocals over it, and it was what it was, and it was pretty bad. But anyway, so I was like, guys, here. And I don't even know why I showed the guys this song with me singing on it, because I really, if you know anything about me, man, I don't like being in the limelight. I don't like attention. I'm like the worst choice for a front man, for sure. But I think I was just so passionate about my music that I was like, I want people to hear this. I just, you know, hope that they hear it, they like it, and then nothing happens with it. It's kind of, I wouldn't even say they liked it, but it was kind of what happened. Nothing happened with it. But anyway, so I showed them this song called The Color of Beauty. that I had recorded. It was like the first song that I had ever really written and with vocals that was part of this new In Flame style. So kind of a break from my high school days. And I'd written it before SeVeR, just when I think me and Joe were still just messing around with stuff. And you might recognize that title because that song would actually come back and be featured on Coming Full Circle. So here is a behind the scenes look at the original Color of Beauty. So that was it. And I think, I can't remember if Paul liked it and was like, yeah, I think, James should be the singer, or Christy was. Someone, I think, liked it. And thank God they were overruled. You can tell, I didn't know how the fuck to scream back then. I was doing some whispery thing, just oversaturated with as much distortion and saturation as I could. I remember doing vocals back then, and it hurt like hell, which is a clear sign I wasn't doing it right. The clean vocals were all subdued and kind of like, I hope nobody hears me kind of thing, which is a funny story. In a future episode, when I cover kind of my backstory, you kind of see why that might be. But anyways, so thank God, they, as a whole, nobody wanted me to be the vocalist, and I completely don't blame them for that. So anyways, we found an ad from a guy that was actually in Florida, and his name's Alex. So we actually reached out to him, said, hey, would you be willing to come up to Pennsylvania and try out for this band? We sent him the EPs. He was interested enough, and he was somewhat of a road warrior, or a, what do you call him? What's the Metallica song, Wherever I May Roam? He was like a nomad. Yeah, nomad vagabond. So I think he had no problem coming from Florida to Pennsylvania. So he came up, we listened to him, and we were like, oh man, this guy's great. At the time, again, we were so down on ourselves and what we sounded like, that having this fresh perspective, fresh voice, we were like all over it. So we brought him in, played some more shows. He was, that kind of like spark that we needed to just kind of, reinvigorate us. But anyway, so that went on, and then Paul took him back to Spider Studios and actually recorded his vocals over the original EP versions. So we had all new songs with his voice on it, and the songs were kind of like a different look. He used a little bit of Matt's approach, but he had his own thing, own lyrics, that kind of thing. So we had that, which I'll actually play a full track at the end of this, which is coming to an end here because we're getting to kind of that SeVeR backstory end. So anyways, keep in mind that, we were still driving, like Devin, God, back to that, man. He was still driving like 6 hours at least. Joe and I were driving an hour and a half each ways. I'd get back on like Sunday after either a show or practice, just exhausted. I would crash. Monday morning, get up. I was going to my engineering classes. After class, I was going to work. I was working at the bookstore for a little bit, Circuit City for a little bit. So I was doing my jobs. I had my girlfriend at the time who actually became my wife. So clearly that worked out. And I don't know how I didn't just absolutely destroy that relationship. But so all of that, man, just the classes and then work and girlfriend and the social life of college at Penn State, going to the football games and partying and all that. And then on the weekend, going to band practice, man, I was like absolutely just burnt out from all this. And I know Joe was, and I know Devin was. So when 2008 came around, Joe and I graduated Penn State. We got our degrees. And then at that point, we're like, shit, man, like, we're poor. We're still like had this little glimmer of hope that SeVeR was going to be our future. But it started, reality just kind of set in that, man, we have no money. I can go two paths here. I can go the SeVeR path and just go all in, or we can try to get jobs in our fields in engineering. And neither of us wanted that reality. Like, that's the real world. We want to live in this fantasy world a little bit longer. So I got like a shitty apartment in Altoona, Pennsylvania, and I was living there, working at Circuit City, just making ends meet. This apartment was so terrible. It was the third floor of this decrepit building. It was seriously slanted. If you put a ping pong ball on one side of the house, it would roll to the bottom side of the house. And there was this woman on the first floor. You had to go up this huge staircase to get to my apartment on the third floor. And she would always be sitting on the steps out front. And Devin always used to drive to my place, and I would drive us to band practice. So he met this woman, but it was old Geraldine making her wax candles on the front step. And she was just fucking weird. But it was great. It just fit everything, right? Having this just weird lady making candles on the front porch. Anyways, so this is, that's where I was staying. That was my reality at the point. And we just tried. We tried the SeVeR thing a little bit longer after we graduated, and just, it was all just kind of building up and all setting into the point that the three of us, at least, we're just like, this isn't going to work. Like, we've tried. It's been a few years now. We're in the same position we were when we started, basically nothing. We're just playing these shitty shows. So we were already feeling that way, and then we played this show in Allentown, Pennsylvania. It was the Battle of the Bands, and we went in. It's just another example of just getting screwed, where we thought we were playing, with all these bands, right, up on the stage. We'll have a great audience. We played in Allentown before at Croc Rock a couple times, actually. So don't get me wrong. Like, we played some good shows. I mean, still one of the most memorable. We played, opened up for Soilwork in Cleveland, Ohio. I think Peabody's was the place. And we met them afterwards. We hung out with Soilwork afterwards. So, I mean, that was just like the epitome. It's just those little stepping stones of just awesomeness that kept this facade going on, that this was really going to be, we were going to be in the industry, right? So I'm glad it happened. I'm glad I had those experiences, but it definitely prolonged the disillusion that was going to be real. So anyways, we played this Battle of the Bands in Allentown. When we got there, we got stuck on the second stage. And you can't see me, but I'm putting quotes. I'm doing my quote fingers. The second stage. Basically, it was this like side room that had like 7 people from the crowd. It was basically people that just like wanted to get away from the main room, or maybe we're going to go get food, and they had to go through the side door to get where they'd be like, oh, hey, there's another band over here? Okay, I guess we'll kind of listen to what they're about for about 3 seconds. So we were sitting there playing this show in front of like nobody. Meanwhile, the real talent show was going on in the main room, where there actually was a decent crowd. We like didn't even have a sound guy, or I think we did, and he was like asleep on it. I don't know, but dude, the whole thing just sounded like shit. So after that show, and driving 4 hours back home, I think it all just came to a head again. And I think we're like, that this is it. Like, that was the final straw. We can't keep doing this. And again, we were poor. We were spending all this money to do this stuff. And it was like, it's over. So at that point, SeVeR died. We made the decision to talk to Paul and say, look, we just can't keep doing this. I wish we could have, at that time, our mentality was, we wish we can keep this up, but we just can't do it. So SeVeR disbanded. So at that point, I remember Devin was still with me, or he might have even come up for, I can't remember, but I remember being at my apartment, And we had talked about this too, like me and him, and we said, look, man, I got all these songs I wrote, like 75 songs plus. I had like 300 riffs, all these guitar profiles. I had all this stuff. I'd been doing music since I was in high school. I wasn't going to stop doing music. I was going to keep doing, I had my awesome Fostex recording studio. I was going to keep making songs. And then Devin always had all these lyrics. He had this old, like, Turkish, really authentic book that he just would write down all these lyrics in. And he was by far the poet. I wrote music, and that's kind of how I got it out, and he wrote lyrics. And he was like, man, I got all these lyrics. You got all this music. Like, why don't we just do something? And we had no intention. Again, we were so soured on the music industry. We had absolutely zero intention of this turning into, let's become the next big thing. All we wanted was, let's just fucking do music. That's what we love. That's what we want to do. I'll get jobs, I'll kind of embrace the real world here. But I was going to do it while being able to express my creativity through the music. So we kind of talked, and we were like, yeah, let's do it. We got the music, got the lyrics. The only thing we don't have is a vocalist. So as you recall from Color of Beauty, I had done some vocals in the past, and I'll show you more of that fantastic evolution on another episode. But so I decided, look, I'm not about to pull in another person. We don't want to complicate this. You pull in more people, and it's just people want to take it different ways. I wanted to kind of do my music the way I wanted. Devin had his lyrics. He doesn't want another vocalist coming in and kind of, having all their ideas and derailing what his intention was. And I had no problem singing, Devin's lyrics, because he was a fantastic lyricist, and it took some of the burden off me. I mean, I've written lyrics even in the Neologist. There have been songs I've done, but I'm usually like a one and done. Like, I have one idea I want to get out, I get it out, I'm good. So anyways, I was like, fuck it, I'll sing, I'll try it, I'll see how it sounds. I'd already been doing it, so that's kind of the plan we had was, let's just do it, see what happens, and whatever. The only thing we needed now was, look, we got everything except for a name. So what do we want to call ourselves? And I wish we had the list of all the potential names. That would have been a great thing to see, but I don't. And I don't think Devin does. I'm just speculating there, but I doubt he does. Anyways, so we were throwing some stuff around, and eventually Devin's wife, Melda, I believe, it came from her. She was the one that thought of the Neologist name, and I remember Devin presented it, and I was like, yeah, I kind of like that. That sounds cool. I mean, and if you think about what a Neologist is, creating, new words or new ways to describe something, it was perfect. It wasn't just a, kind of a cool and interesting name. It was, kind of relevant to what we were doing. Not that we were anything, brand new. It was just a different perspective. So at this point, it is 2009. I'm in my shitty Altoona apartment. We had all this music. Devin had all his lyrics. I opted to sing, and we had a name. And at that point, the Neologist was born. So that's going to do it for this episode. Hopefully that was interesting. Hopefully your ears have stopped bleeding after some of those demos. So I am going to leave you with something a little more better quality here. This is the song Amidst the Ashes from our SeVeR EP, Amidst the Ashes. And this is featuring Alex on vocals. Enjoy, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.